Hey guys, here's the gear for today. We are using a soap brand I haven't used in a long time. Wet Saving Professionals, I believe, or Wet Shaving Perfectionist. I can't remember. WSP, and they make a pretty good soap. It's a few years old, so I don't know what they're actually doing now. They're not really part of that kind of artisan type movement where a lot of people are jumping into their scents. At least in the communities, the shaving communities where I am, and so I don't really know how they're doing. Um, they were on Amazon in the early days when I was learning how to do this kind of shaving, and so I picked up. It wasn't sandalwood; it was something else. Anyway, I got a hold of this sandalwood and the rustic line that they have. Whenever they put it out, I don't even know if it's current with them or if it's a few years old. But the rustic line is I think it's a vegan soap line, and it has a stronger presence in whatever scent you have in the rustic line. It has a stronger scent presence with that as opposed to the tallow line. And so where I was able to find the sandalwood is uh, the rustic Formula T. I think that's what they call their their tallow line. And I do have a few of their soaps. They perform well. We'll talk more about them in a minute. We're going to be using the Nacet blade. Here's my tally card. 488 is today's shave count with the Nacet. We're going to be putting it in a razor that I believe did pretty well with it. This is a vintage Gillette Aristocrat, the first twist to open razor put in production. And it's an open comb by Gillette. And it was 1934. And you can tell the height of the head here. It's a little slimmer. The 36 looks almost exactly alike, but the head is just a little thicker. And there are a few other things that I've discussed previously, but I won't go into now. And so 1934. So it's a 88-year-old razor. My math, it came and then it went. So I don't know if I'm guessing right or not. Wait a minute. No. Yeah, 34. 34. We're in 22. Something like that. All right. Let's go ahead and put the Nacet in. And I almost put it in upside down. I have been doing something nuts with the Nacet here. In addition to just using it so many times, I have been putting it in with the same side, the side with those identifying marks that always points toward the handle. I've been shaving with it on the same side for that many times. Really curious what the blade edge looks like. Has it changed to be kind of a uniform triangle to one that's worn down in a certain direction? I have no idea. All right, so that's in the razor. We have Barrister and Mann Seville as the splash for afterwards. The brush is the Declaration Grooming. This is the B13 knot. I believe it's a 28 millimeter or 26. And this is a Briar Brushworks and handle in conjunction with the main guy who turned it, no doubt, was Stephen from Dogwood Handcrafts. I think he got hold of some of the wood from Briar Brushworks, that kind of thing. Gorgeous handle. Okay, I covered all the info, so let's get going. No, you know what? Sandalwood, this may have been the first one that I got from over Amazon on WSP. This is one that caused me to kind of learn that soaking these soft soaps with a coating of water on them before your shave has negative benefits. I haven't used this very many times, but it looks like I've used it 100 times. And that's because one time, I didn't know any better. It was early on. I put a teaspoon, maybe, of water on the surface of the soap, and I took my shower. Came back out, that water had dissolved so much of the soap that when I then kind of poured it out, so much was gone. And so that in general, my advice is not to do that. With these softer soaps, you do not need to pre-moisten them. We call it blooming in our shaving community. You can if you want. It's your money. It's your soap. But Will at Barrister and Mann knows his chemistry stuff like crazy. He advised not to bloom for chemical reasons. I'm guessing it's something to do with how the water is going to pull things out of the soap too soon, or change the chemistry of the soap so it doesn't quite do what it's supposed to do. That sort of thing. All right. I'm going to go ahead and tub load, and it's going to get messy. These are those old metal tins. You know, Sterling used to come in metal tins like this, and so many of them have switched to plastic, and larger ones as well that don't get as messy because there's plenty enough room for you to work your brush. But the reason that another company uses these same tins, and it is Dr. John's. He does vegan stuff, and I think he's environmentally focused, and so he chose, and is still choosing, as far as I know, to use these metal containers because they are recyclable. And they are much more healthy for the environment, even if you can reuse them for various things. And then even if you just throw it out in the woods, eventually it will rust and go away, right? Plastic won't do that. And so he still uses those tins over at Dr. John's. Now, of course, the problem with the metal ones is that if you use them to travel with, if they get banged up and dented, that doesn't really come out. And if the threads are messed up and part of the dent, then you may not be able to seal your tub anymore. And so there are reasons people switched. All right, let's get my face wet. Well, guys, I think we are officially now into the time of the year when the water starts to get a little cooler. The weather is changing a little bit here. Just even last week and week before, it's really quite warm, but the water temperature is changing. So I think it's time for me to bring in just a little bit of warm water into my shave, just to keep the water at a tepid level. And I find that still quite refreshing. Of course, if you want to be really refreshing, you can keep it cold. But I like to use the warm at the end for cleaning these high density brushes, because they often need a lot more cleaning than boar brushes or the average density brushes. Got to get that soap out of there. All right, so let's load. I haven't used this in a while. Let's just do 30 seconds for fun. A lot of it's going to come out the sides. So let's shake a lot of the water out till the droplets kind of start to slow down, and I can feel the weight of the knot here, and I can feel it getting lighter. And let's just go at it. We'll start at 32. Might have shaken out too much water. See, as I look at the soap here, it's quite dry. And so that was about 8 seconds of loading. Now, what you can do is you can take a little bit of water and put it on the top of the soap. And this is not the same as blooming because I'm not letting it sit there. And then what that is doing is, what I probably did was to shake too much water out of this brush. And so now I'm kind of adding that back into the mixture. Okay, we loaded for about 8 seconds. Let's go for 20 more seconds. And we'll start at the 15. I'm gonna hold it right there, just kind of let the tips absorb the water so I don't immediately splash the water out. Okay, so now let's resume at the 20-second mark, and we'll go to the 40-second mark. But you know what? This soap, it's possible it has developed some sort of film on it that because it's sat around for so long. Now I can hear. That's 20 seconds. Let's go for another 10 seconds. And I may be overloading, once you, okay, there we go. So that's like 38 seconds of loading. And finally, I'm starting to get something that I'm used to here. But surely I've got enough. I can always go back to the tub if I need to. So let's just assume that's enough. It's a good performance. Not super top notch, but it's really quite good as I recall. So let's just see if my memory is accurate. About a 24-hour growth is what we're going to be shaving off today. The sandalwood here is one that I enjoy. It is more dedicated to that kind of dry, single note type sandalwood scent that we all kind of know about. The British sandalwoods and some other sandalwoods that are out there, Taylor of Old Bond Street, D.R. Harris, those guys, they add kind of some perfume and some other things in with the sandalwood, some kind of soapy notes. And I find that I don't like those at all. You can rinse this off my face now. This type of sandalwood scent that I like is this kind. And for a long time, this soap was where I could get it, and also Perazzo Red. While I don't enjoy the performance as much as many soaps, the scent is a great sandalwood the kind of sandalwood that I really like. Only recently, I guess within the last year, Will at Barrister and Mann did come out with his sandalwood as a part of his Soft Heart series, I believe. Might have been the modified Soft Heart, I can't remember, but I definitely snatched up some of that because that's right along the lines with this kind of more woodsy type of unadulterated, might be a word I feel like using to represent how that one. Now we're looking all right. That one just hadn't been used in a while, and many soaps you can kind of pick up and you don't have to change your load time too much, but it looks like maybe this one does. This one's different. Yeah, we're starting to look pretty good. We'll keep adding water. WSP, it's not strong in the price point range. For instance, I think it's Matterhorn might be theirs that resembles Creed's Silver Mountain Water. But if you want to spend the same amount of money, you can get a tub of Sterling Mountain Man. And it's the same scent, but you get a lot more soap. And so if there's a commonality between a good maker like Sterling and a soap that WSP offers, then I would definitely recommend looking at Sterling. But if you do have one that WSP has that nobody else makes, go for it. I have maybe about 6 of their tubs. Don't use them too often. I have their Old Kentucky, and it's kind of that bourbon type scent. And I enjoyed the performance pretty well. I can't remember if it was the Formula T or the Rustic. I think it was the Formula T. But the thing is, the scent was just very weak. So that's why I didn't return to it very many times at all. And I think that's happened with a couple of their scents, with the scent strength just being kind of low. And this is not strong, as in if I keep it away from me this far away, then I'm not really smelling too much of it. But this is an older soap, so some could have definitely departed, some of the scent, just due to time. let's pull it up. Look at how it drops and okay. It's holding on to its shape. It is wiggling a little. There's some attributes to look for, to notice. If it holds its shape, that means it doesn't have a whole lot of water in there to make it, number one, loosen up, but also number two, to add weight. And if it has water that adds the weight, then that also encourages it to kind of to widen out when it hits the bowl. So, but with vegan bases, except for the newest, most excellent ones, I often find that I can't add quite as much water as I usually do, and so I need to have the lather look a little more, not quite as wet as I want it to be, for it to have its best kind of slickness for me. All right, I think we're going to go with that. Let's lift this up, and you can see we've got actually a good bit of soap. Ah, look at that. You see those long peaks, the way it kind of dropped and then it kind of collapsed over. I think that might be a good place for this one. Water on my face. And here we go. This is a big brush. I don't think it's a 28, but it really might be. It holds so much lather that if I press it into my face too much, then it almost squeezes lather out the sides enough to drop and fall away. And this is why this might be my favorite brush. The B13 here, at this loft, at this diameter, is just perfection for me. I have two other B13 brushes. One of them's kind of a small one, like 24 millimeter, and it just behaved a little differently. And the other one, I don't know if it's one bigger, 2 millimeter bigger than this or smaller. Like if this is the 28 and I have the 26 and the 24. I can't remember quite for sure, but the smallest one is good but not quite right. The next one just had a little too much firmness, but this one just hit the spot. And it was worth the search. To be. All right. Let's see how this shave goes with the Aristocrat, the first twist to open razor out there. Moving through pretty easily. No, I can feel some resistance, but it's not coming through in a tugging feeling. You know, one of the reasons I like this razor is there's something about it that kind of makes it sing. There's this metallic, I think maybe what I meant to say was melodic. This melodic chime almost sometimes. The 1936 came out a couple of years after this one, as you might assume, and they made some improvements with it. The head's thicker, like I said, so I think they changed the curvature of how it flexes the blade. And that made it a smoother razor, the 36. And so the 34 for me is not as comfortable of a shave, but I just had to have it because of its representation in the shaving world as the first TTO. Well, I'm going to end up with a few passes more than I need. And that's saying a lot because I may use 5 passes of lather. And I'll bet I may have 8 passes total mixed up here. So even though it looked like it wasn't pulling out a lot of soap, it really was. And from the feel of that first pass, I believe I nailed it in terms of I've got a nice slickness here, and it's still creamy. Let's go ahead and switch now to the cross grain. Definitely no tuggy feeling now that we took down a good bit of the growth on the first pass. All right. Now that we've taken away that lather with the razor, just as a science bit, what do we have left on my face? Ah, that's really quite good. There is some decent secondary slickness there. Now, of course, you're going to get secondary slickness if you do what I did and you kind of get a little bit from somewhere and you move it around your face. But when I first felt my cheek and over here, I was feeling that. That's what I'm talking about in terms of residual slickness. I was feeling that, and it was nice. So that's one of the features that I do prefer to have in a soap. I find that to be protective when going back and doing a little bit extra work. You don't have to re-lather. All right, water on my face. Just a little bit. Load the brush up. I am taking a little bit extra time here. I don't need to work the brush on my face this much, but I'm really enjoying the feel. The brush and the lather is really shining because of the brush and vice versa. The lather's perfect. It's wet, but you can just, I hope you can see how creamy it is. Really nice. Light touch as always. Many marathoners do find themselves bearing down a little harder to make the blade do a good job. And you can do that if you want. But I would rather do an extra pass myself. And that has served me well because it lets me flip back and forth between a marathon blade and a regular use blade, and I don't butcher myself trying to change the technique to meet each different type of wear during the condition of the blade edge. These passes are actually going pretty quickly, and so I don't know if I'm now about to start my 3rd or my 4th. I've got enough lather for maybe 4 or 5 more passes. Oh yeah. The tips just have a, to me, perfect kind of softness. They are making their presence known, and they're not folding away and allowing the contact to be the sides of the bristles. But they're super soft, but they're also not jelly. I don't feel like I'm wiping my face with a bunch of sponges. Just right. Now I'm going to add some oblique angles here to help to add a slicing motion. This will probably be my last pass. Could even go a different direction if I wanted to. Always maintaining a very light hold on the razor. I'm kind of just cradling it. Of course, we have to hold it tight enough to maintain safe control. Very comfy. Little point of note, Gillette never, as far as we know, oiled their razors. This is especially relevant for the adjustables, but any of the TTOs that have that have working mechanisms in the interior of the handle, Gillette never sent any of those out oiled, nor did they recommend doing that. Some people do put a little mineral oil in there sometimes, and that may help with a squeak. But honestly, what that then can do is, if you get any soap and stubble down in there, that oil is going to help it to stay there. So I've kind of been doing it the Gillette way and putting up with any squeak, and that way the water just rinses through. This is another way that these really wet lathers help a shaver, because it makes rinsing your equipment much easier. Those drier lathers that are thicker just take more work to clean your stuff. Well, I'm happy with that in terms of comfort, and I'm happy with it in terms of closeness. Very good. Now, I did work this bottom trouble area that I have, this neck area. I worked it in some different directions repetitively, and it's a tribute to the soap here and the lather that I put together, that I'm not ending up with any irritation. I did notice a little start to build up in that last pass, but then it's nothing that the nice cool water didn't refresh and cool down in a great way. No chemicals necessary. Balm is not necessary. I could bring it in if I wanted to, and who knows, maybe I will. But don't forget, don't lose track of the fact that nice cold water at the end of the shave can really help inflammation and razor burn. Now this splash from Barrister and Mann, yep, does contain alcohol. But of course he throws in some good stuff like witch hazel, chamomile, calendula to help your body, your skin out. And Seville is, to me, a terrific barbershop style scent. Had it sitting on my shelf and was looking at it. I guess in a sense I've been looking at it for a few years. And then I realized, wait a minute, that's perfect for just keeping right up here in my little cabinet and always having the ability to use it. Terrific. Seville. It's just a great scent. All you other fathers out there, I regret to inform you I've been presented with the Best Dad Ever cup times infinity. Everybody else is number 2 or lower. How much water did we use with this vegan soap offering? Oh, quite a bit. 24 milliliters of water. And we do have a good amount of lather remaining. Shoot, I bet I could squeeze 3 more passes out of what we have there. Ah, you see the way it's moving? A key thing to look at as you determine where you like to have your hydration for your lather. When you do the little wiggle like I did, if you choose to do that, kind of wipe the soap to the bottom of the container and then scoop it out with the brush. Do a wiggle to where it starts to drop. When it drops, does it freeze right there? Does it keep its same shape and then just freeze? And you could turn it upside down or sideways and it doesn't change at all. That's something. But with a little more hydration, it'll move. And so maybe you want to get your lather to this point right here. If you've never done it, I encourage you to try it, where you can blop some down in there and then you turn it to the side and it moves slowly. I think many soaps will find a really good sweet spot, this great juxtaposition between creamy and really well hydrated, lots of water. It's this great spot, and now of course soaps are different, and it doesn't work that way for all soaps, but a lot of them do kind of work this way on average. Give that a shot with your favorite soap. See if you like where that lands you. All right, yep, 24 milliliters of water used. I think we ended up with 38 seconds of loading, and that was a nice performing lather, very slick, good residual slickness, as well as the primary movement with the razor. Both kinds of slickness were present and did very well. So this kind of did better than I thought it would. This is a really, to me, and performance-wise, a very competitive soap. I'm curious about the company now and if they're using the same base still for their vegan soaps or if they've changed up, because it's been a while. May have been 15, 5. It may have been 4 or 5. This soap may be 5 years old. All right, let me do some cleaning up. Then here is how the knot looks once it's been towel dried after a good rinse and sling out. Big. As you can see, it has expanded out in a big way. I love it when these 2-band brushes, like from Declaration, when I actually easily see the lighter color here. Normally a lot of 2-bands are set so deep that you only see the dark and then the tips. But when the Declaration brushes have a thickness right here of this lighter color, that's a good symbol to me that it may be lofted high enough. And this worked that way with the B9A as well. Lofted high enough to where it doesn't have that crunched up backbone that doesn't give you a lot of splay. Easy splay. It's a nice easy splaying brush, that one is. The sandalwood did not give very much presence during the shave, but it of course is going to work with the Seville because the barbershop and sandalwood are kind of made for each other. So very good shave today. Thanks so much for watching. This is Sugar Daddy Shaves. You guys take care.